It's another episode at North Vista NVTV, bringing all of the news. We're back in better, hope you didn't miss us. Be a great student, it's all up to you. Tune in cause we're doing the most. Best shows and the greatest hosts. Updates on your very own school.
GK on the track.
Culture, art, sports, academics, future news made by students at the Woodswood School. Stay anticipated, never know what's coming towards your way. In your second period, always gonna be an interesting topic for us today.
Happy Friday, Novi. I'm your host, Jacob.
I'm your host, Adam. It's Spirit Shirt Friday.
If you're wearing your Spirit shirt, wearing red, or wearing any gear representing Norte Vista, a club or sport on campus, be sure to have your second period teacher scan your ID for Spirit points.
And today is the day. It's prom.
As you know, we're following a minimum day schedule today so that those attending prom can have plenty of time to get ready.
We hope that everyone who's attending prom tonight has an amazing time. We also want to bring up an importance of making safe choices on nights like tonight.
Some of our crew members have been very hard at work in the past few weeks interviewing individuals with first-hand experience of the impact of drinking and driving.
Teachers, we hope that you will allow your classes to watch the entire segment as it's important for our students to think about tonight. And in the future weeks that come to graduation, celebrations, and other end-of-the-year parties coming up.
Let's watch their documentary now.
My name is Mackenzie Parker. I work for the Riverside County District Attorney's Office. More specifically, I'm assigned to the Western DUID unit. What we do in that unit is we prosecute, file, and help educate on driving under the influence of not just alcohol, but also all drugs as well.
My name is Taylor Cleveno. I'm currently assigned as the School Resource Officer here at Norte Vista High School. Currently at the rank of detective, and I'm also part of our collateral firearms training unit.
Well, my name is Gennaro Escobedo. I'm working currently with the youth program up in our Community Service Bureau, but I've been a traffic investigator. I've worked in DUIs. I actually teach field sobriety tests to not only our department but other agencies, and I'm also work with our firearms range unit also.
You do in your department?
My name is Ryan Railsback. I'm actually the Public Information Officer for the Riverside Police Department. So basically what I do is I liaison with the media, you know, the local newspaper, the TV news, and I will talk about things that happen here in Riverside with them. Let them I inform the public and the news of what goes on here in Riverside.
So my name is Katrina Parga, and I am a victim of I'm a victim survivor of a drunk driver. My uncle Rick was killed by a third-time DUI offender on July 12th, 2022.
My name is Kelly Montalvo.
I'm Eddie Montalvo.
Where someone I knew had really ruined their life by driving drunk. This was when I was in high school. And she'd been in a lot of my classes, you know, we were in math class together. Like, we weren't in the same circles. I was theater, she was on the swim team, but we knew each other. She was friendly, she was nice, like everyone liked her, right? And we find out come one Monday morning, right, she's not at school and people are wondering what's happened. She'd been to a party on Saturday and she'd gone out drinking. And she hadn't had too much in the grand scheme of things, but she misjudged a red light and she went through it when it wasn't her turn. And so then the oncoming traffic just hit her full on. And she had been, I remember her, she was full of life. She was an athlete, right? She was gearing up to get a water polo scholarship to go to college, right? And she was in a coma for 6 months because of this accident. And I remember senior year then when we graduated, this was about a year after the accident. She graduated with us and she hadn't recovered. The brain damage she suffered from that collision was so extensive. You know, the diploma was more just kind of a courtesy than an actual thing. And I remember we were standing and we were cheering for her as she walked. It took her 20 minutes to cross the stage because of how badly she had been disabled from the crash. And she's never going to recover. Her parents are going to be taking care of her for the rest of their lives.
Yes, the biggest incident that I responded to of a teenager involved with drunk driving Ultimately, it was after prom, and there was a group of teenagers in a SUV. They were traveling to their house. Ultimately, they crossed the center divider of the road, and they were involved in a head-on collision with a smaller car. Ultimately, the driver in the smaller car, he was getting off work, going home to see his family. Due to the head-on collision, the engine of the vehicle pushed in and ultimately killed the driver. The driver of the SUV, they were intoxicated, they were seniors in high school, and ultimately they were arrested.
Yes, like I said, being an instructor and doing these types of investigations, I have personally investigated someone who A, was driving under the influence of weed and crashed, okay? And that investigation, because their parents didn't buckle in their kids, those kids had to go to the hospital because they actually broke a bone. I had to charge that person with a felony because simple DUI is when nobody gets hurt, but at the moment someone gets hurt, that particular same case is now a felony, and it's a bigger crime, a bigger charge. And it's kind of sad to see kids being hurt because their parents weren't paying attention, or even kids driving. There you go.
Well, I didn't actually deal with this scene, but I got involved with it from my role of talking to the media. In July of 2022, we had a fatal car crash up at nearby at La Sierra and Indiana Avenue, and this was at night. A man, Jerry Hodges is his name. He was on a motorized bicycle and he left the Ralph's shopping center parking lot. As he got onto Indiana Avenue, a Honda Civic came up behind him really fast and ended up hitting him. The Honda Civic, the driver, ended up driving away from the scene, didn't stop. And luckily we had a witness who followed him, gave our dispatchers information that allowed our officers to end up catching him. And what they found out was that he was drunk. He was drunk driving, and that's why he hit Jerry. Unfortunately, Jerry died as a result of that crash. Last year in 2023, that suspect, that drunk driver, pled guilty to 15 years to life. The earliest he'll get out of jail is 15 years, and he can spend his life in there. Why? Because they actually charged him with murder because he had prior DUI convictions. He had actually signed a form, they call it a Watson admonishment. He signed a form stating that he understands the dangers of drunk driving, yet he went out and did it again. And he killed somebody, so they charged him with murder. We have that quite often. Jerry's widow, Vanetta, her life has changed forever, her and her children. They don't have their dad, she doesn't have her husband anymore. All because of a decision this suspect made to get intoxicated and get behind the wheel when he knew it was wrong.
Horrible. It's a nightmare that you can never wake up from, and you remember everything like it just happened. And I was traumatically woken up to my mom screaming at 3:45 in the morning, and I didn't know what happened. So I woke up and I thought maybe something bad had happened to like my sister. And I had sent my dad a text message and I was like, what's going on? And he finally came out of the door about 5 minutes later and said, there's been a crash and your uncle's gone. And I will never forget those words. And I think one of the hardest things for me was when my mom was begging us to take her to the 405 freeway because she said that her brother was alone and he was cold and by himself and she needed to be by his side. And one of the things I had to tell her was, we can't take you because the freeways are closed. They're shut down. We can't make it there for you. And I felt helpless. And this is my first time ever dealing with something like that. And I was a teenager before, and my thought process was, something like this will never happen to me, and life has a funny way of proving you wrong. I never thought I would be here. I never thought I would say the words that a drunk driver killed someone I love, and here I am. And peer pressure is hard, even for adults. Peer pressure is very hard, but you have to be brave enough to say, this isn't right. You're saving not only your life, but the life of your friend, the life of a family member, because not only are you taking someone else's something away, but you're taking yourself away from your family. Can't do that. You have to not be selfish when it comes to those things. And you guys have to learn through our experience, because the guy who killed my uncle was 23 years old. This was his 3rd DUI. And his response the night that he was at the party was, people were like, you're too drunk, you can't drive. And his response was, I'm a big boy, I have work in the morning. He didn't make it to work. He went straight to jail in 2012. He's now serving 34 years to life in prison for the 2 lives he killed. So never think you're inevitable. Never think you're Superman. Never think you're gonna escape this, because it catches up with you. And with it being his 3rd DUI, he was charged with murder.
Well, we got connected with MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, after our son Benjamin was killed by an impaired driver. Benjamin had just turned 21, and he was riding his bicycle on his way to meet his brother for dinner. It was nighttime because he and his brother both worked at night, so he was struck by an impaired and texting driver. He was killed at the scene, never made it to meet his brother. He was almost in front of his high school, which is Centennial High School in Corona. They were going to actually meet at Centennial. Benjamin's killer was young as well. She was 25. She was drunk, she was high, and she was texting. And in fact, in the 6 minutes surrounding the crash, she had exchanged 24 texts with her boyfriend. In those texts, he often accuses her of being drunk and high and telling her to get home. And after she struck Benjamin, she didn't even stop. She didn't call 911. She backed up and she took off and continued to text her boyfriend. The next morning, she got up first thing and went and replaced her windshield. It took her 24 hours before she turned herself in. And 24 hours after turning herself in, she was in Vegas partying with her boyfriend again. All of her texts were used in court, and she did eventually receive 9 years, a 9-year sentence, and she's currently serving that sentence now. I think if I have any advice to the kids, especially during this prom time, have a plan, have a good time. There's no doubt about that, but have a plan. These are all choices. I know everyone thinks their phone is so important. It's like another part of your hand, and that text, it's just hard to put that phone down. But one text takes your eyes off the road for the length of a football field. One text, studies have shown that. And so I would just say, have a plan, designate a driver, get an Uber. Just don't drink if you're not really of age anyway to drink. So the same thing with the phone. The phone, that text isn't worth a life, and it took the life of our son and sadly many more.
And a lot of people tell me, well, you get over it in what time? But what I have to say is, that's not true. It gets worse as we go. And what I have to tell people is that see what other people go through and try not to go themselves and other people through the same thing. It is a wound that never heals. it gets worse. So it's not only for the victim sometimes, also for the person that creates the accident, because if that person happens to kill the other person, it also stays with them. It's something that I would think that I would never want to go through it myself, but I think it stays with the person. Whoever killed somebody else, you're gonna have to carry that for the rest of your life. My son, he's gone. I hope that his suffering, it's over with. Or his family never ends. So I'm sure that there's graduation time. People are excited. Kids are excited. Yeah, of course, it's time to have fun, to enjoy themselves. This time that, they went through school all these years, now we get to a point where they're gonna go to the next step of their lives. But a lot of them don't make the next step because they make stupid mistakes. So it is fun, okay, to go and have fun, to go and celebrate. But at the same time, you have to understand that if you get in a car while you've been driving, the chances are not good for you to go the next step. So I like to tell not only to those kids that are done with school, high school, but there's some other kids that are still celebrating every day or every weekend. So I like to tell them that think about it. Think about what they do before they get behind the wheel. So to not make mistakes that are gonna have repercussions not only on themselves, but also their families and other people's families. Primeramente, repetir lo que dije en inglés y ojalá y no siga tan sentimental como comencé, pero es una cosa que no puedo separarme de eso. Siempre que hablo acerca de mi hijo me duele bastante y pues es muy difícil para mí hablar acerca de eso y volver a lo mismo de lo que dije. Es una herida que nunca más se va a cerrar. Yo pienso, la gente me dice que quizá más adelante se pueda pues uno vivir la vida otra vez como la vivía antes, pero pues se me hace imposible para mí. Parece que nunca esa herida va a cerrar. Y por lo consiguiente yo quiero decirle a la gente y especialmente a los jóvenes que se están graduando, que sí es un momento, porque yo me acuerdo de mis hijos. Yo tuvimos 4 hijos y gracias a Dios los 4 se graduaron de la high school y pues sí, era tiempo de celebrar. Es más, no nada más para ellos, sino para nosotros también, los padres, hacerles una fiesta, llevarlos a Las Vegas. La cosa es que Benjamin nunca tuvo la oportunidad de ir a Las Vegas, se graduó, pero nunca tuvo la oportunidad de ir a Las Vegas, se lo habíamos prometido. Y es tiempo de celebrar, pero a la misma vez tiene que ver que eso de celebrar ahorita, tener un momento de alegría, se puede acabar en un momento. muy pronto. Que piensen las cosas cuando vayan a hacer algo así. Está bien que, pues digamos, nadie les va a decir que no tomen, que hagan algo así, pues, pero tienen que tener cuidado en lo que hacen, que lo piensen antes de hacer una cosa así, que muchas veces sí están pensando en ese momento, pero no piensan en el momento que puede pasar una desgracia. A muchos de ellos pues se manejan cuando están en estado de ebriedad o de drogas, y eso les puede causar mucho daño tanto como a ellos como a las familias de ellos y a las familias de otra persona. Entonces, antes de que vayan a cometer una cosa así, porque le puede pasar a cualquier de nosotros, nos puede pasar en un instante, que tengan cuidado, que piensen lo que están haciendo antes de subirse a un carro, antes de festejar. Si van a salir a algún lugar a festejar, está bien, pero si muchos dicen van a tomar, pues es la cosa que todos hacen, tomar, pero que ya tengan preparado cómo van a llegar a la casa, cómo van a regresar, ya sea una familia que los vaya a recoger, o Uber. Ahora ya tan fácil que uno, tanto ellos como todos, que el teléfono luego ahí está el Uber, ahí está al alcance, fácil. Cualquier cosa así que tengan precaución de lo que están haciendo, para que no se arrepientan después. Muchos pasan mucho tiempo en la cárcel por lo mismo, y ya cuando están ahí dicen, oh, no lo hubiera hecho, no lo hubiera escuchado a esta gente, no lo hubiera hecho, pero es muy tarde muchas veces que lo piensen. Igualmente, volviendo a repetir lo que mi esposa dijo, que tiene que tener un plan antes de, ya como hacen planes así para hacer una fiesta, hagan planes para regresar a la casa salvos y no hacer daño a otra persona, que en un momento ese festejo se puede convertir en un momento de tragedia, y que pues tengan cuidado, que piensen lo que están haciendo. Hay tanta persona que sufre, tanta gente que sufre, ahí están las estadísticas, cuánta gente muere así que no tenía que, nomás porque otra persona cometió el error. Y desgracias pasan, pero también desgracias las podemos evitar. Entonces, que piensen lo que hacen.
Thank you all for watching, and thank you to our NVTV crew, our Mothers Against Drunk Driving volunteers, the officers, district attorney, and medical professionals who shared their stories.
With all of that in mind, we hope that everyone has a fantastic night to remember, and we can't wait to see how those fabulous you all look.
Well, that's all today, Novi. Have a great weekend.
Remember to stay safe, stay positive, and most importantly, stay brave.